It's Thursday, July 17th, 2026, and it's time for The Swamp, where I cover daily updates inside our federal machine. And don't forget to give a quick like and subscribe, leave a comment, click on the notification bell, and I'll keep you up to date on everything happening in The Swamp Monday through Friday. Every article is below in the description, and the highlight segments from tonight's episode will be dropping tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to kick things off from the White House. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As of this recording, I'm about a half an hour past 9 p.m., so President Trump's already in the process of giving his speech. So President Trump, he's going to be talking about election security or election integrity, probably the both, or both of the subjects from Benny Johnson. People are saying, though, that ABC, CBS, and NBC should lose their broadcast licenses because they are refusing to air President Trump's national address on election security. Which, of course, the mainstream media is doing just that, so they will skip Trump's full speech so they can just chop it up later and frame it however the hell they want, because 81% of Democrats, they support voter ID in the mainstream media. They just want to push that number down as far down as they can, as low as humanly possible, because 81%, they can't have that. That's way too much. So will they actually have their licenses yanked by the FCC? That would certainly be very interesting. Not sure if that would be strictly speaking legal, although, I mean, who the hell doesn't cover the president addressing the nation? That's my understanding as to what this speech is. He gave us several days head start to prepare and get everything lined up because he's going on the airwaves nationally. President Trump addressing the nation. It wasn't like he just gave them 5 minutes to prepare themselves at the last minute. No, they've had several days to get ready for this speech. It's not going to be extremely long. At least that's not my understanding that it's going to be very long at all. But I'm just going to get straight to it. This is directly from the White House. They streamed the broadcast of his speech, and we're just going to dig right in. Let's go straight to it.
Good evening. Before we begin, I'm proud to report that our country is safer, stronger, and far wealthier than it has ever been before. We are doing great. Less than 2 years ago, we inherited an economic and social disaster. After the worst inflation in 48 years, the wide open borders with millions and millions of people pouring in from all over the world, including criminals of all types, and 11,888 murders, many of whom killed more than one person. We had transgender for everybody, men and women sports.
So that's why they're not going to broadcast
ravaging our cities, and the whole world was laughing at us as a nation, but not anymore. 2 years ago, our country was dead. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world.
White hot.
America is respected like we have never been respected before. We have more money being invested in the United States than at any time in the history of our country. More Americans are working today than ever before. This week it was announced that inflation saw the largest monthly decline in more than 6 years. Just happened.
Like 3.6%.
Given out. The media reported it, and we accept it. The best in 6 years. The tax cuts
I think he would concede that.
Our great, big, beautiful bill are saving hardworking families thousands and thousands of dollars, like with the provisions, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors.
Every Democrat voted against that, by the way.
Interest deduction on a loan
they voted
used
to raise
to purchase a car, but only if that car is made in America
USA.
and a 100% expensing for our job.
Well, technically assembled in the United States.
Our stock markets are at their highest point in many years, but we can actually say
Dow Jones is highest ever,
of all
I think.
time. And your 401ks, pensions, and retirement accounts are setting records every single day, the highest in history.
Just hope
for
that
years,
the AI
we paid the highest price for prescription drugs anywhere in the world. Now we pay the lowest price under my most favored nation's policy, because I was able to get the rest of the world and the pharmaceutical companies to act responsibly.
That was amazing.
Drug prices are coming down by 70, 80, and 90%.
Yep. 500% savings.
TrumpRx.gov. This
More drugs
will
added all the time.
ultimately reduce the cost of health care. You have to go to TrumpRx.gov and take advantage of it. But the cost of health care is coming way down because of what we've done with prescription drugs. And with Trump accounts, every child in America now has access to a tax-free investment account to save for their future. Billions and billions of dollars are being invested, put in by companies and individuals to take care of our children so that at age 18, they will have potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in their account, and they'll get off to a great start in life. So for that, go to trumpaccounts.gov and sign up your child or any child who'd like to sign up.
It's in the description.
Our previously wide open borders have been transformed into the most secure borders in the history of our country, with zero illegal aliens being admitted to the United States in the past 14 months. That is zero. Nobody thought it was possible. We had the worst border in the history of our country, and now we have the best. Crime is plummeting nationwide, with the murder rate at its lowest level since 1900, or more than 125 years ago.
When they started
We're
keeping
making
records.
a record investment in our armed forces, and we have the strongest and most powerful military by far anywhere in the world. I built it during my first term, and unfortunately, we're forced to use it now. We won in Venezuela, which is now working with us to produce millions and millions of barrels of oil. We are likewise winning big in Iran, and you will see the fruits of that labor very, very shortly. America is back and doing really well, but we still have a major challenge that must be urgently addressed, because no country can be great without fair and honest elections.
Amen.
You have to trust your country, because if there can be no trust, there can be no greatness. And that's very simple. No trust, no greatness. For many years, I've called for bold, swift, and decisive action to protect the integrity of America's elections. Every American deserves to know that when they cast their vote, that vote will be counted accurately in a system, and that is to make that system secure. One where cheating and interference are not just difficult, but virtually impossible. Unfortunately, the system we have today falls catastrophically short of that standard.
Oh, yeah, especially in blue
Tonight,
states.
I'm announcing the immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence, revealing shocking vulnerabilities in our election infrastructure.
Holy shit.
This evidence shows that the election system we have dangerously exposes, and really exposes like levels never thought possible, to hacking, exploitation, and foreign interference. Just as disturbingly, this vital information has for many years been covered up and hidden from you, the American people, our beautiful, our great American people. But that all changes right now. The documents we will release starting tonight have been gathered by the White House Government Transparency Task Force, a great group of people, along with the staff of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, supported by our top intelligence agency chiefs, who have all personally reviewed the findings. We are presenting this evening and fully confirmed their authenticity. You can see these documents for yourself at whitehouse.gov. That's whitehouse.gov. Go check it out. Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing. The documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle,
here we go,
the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files.
Holy shit.
That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is...
Okay, so wait a minute. So China has all of our election information, our names, our addresses, probably social security numbers. We got all that stuff, but the blue states are actively suing the federal government in order to protect their voter rolls from being seen by the federal government, because apparently they've got something to hide, even though they say they've got nothing to hide. But China's got all of our information, so why can't our own federal government have the same voter rolls?
Exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very famous group of people, in many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible.
Wow.
U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voter data, think of that, tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China.
And that is why you don't plug your election system into the internet. That's why we need to hand count our ballots. Don't they do that in India? They count every single vote in India whenever they have an election nationwide by the end of the day. And they probably don't use voter machines. I'm sure they do it all by hand. It can be done.
Those responsible for sounding the alarm instead kept the information secret and hidden. They did not disclose to me as president or to anyone else, and to the best of our knowledge, they did not inform Congress. In fact,
probably not.
All they kept saying is, this is the most secure election in the history of our country. A standard, very pat line that was divvied out to say. The cover-up of this colossal security breach is even more disturbing in light of the additional information showing that China engaged in other election-related activities to undermine my first administration and our 2020 campaign.
Yeah, of course.
They did not want, and they just didn't want
they dropped code
they
for crying out loud.
Hell not to have
you think
it.
that was an accident?
Trump to win.
Come on, man. It was all by design.
For good reason. As the documents we are releasing show, CIA reporting explicitly stated, and I quote, in mid-2018, the Chinese Communist Party's policy was to leverage all domestic and foreign elements that were opposed to the U.S. president in an effort to reduce the U.S. president's votes and make him resign or prevent his re-election. Isn't that nice? Also,
Holy
in mid-2018, China was working to influence the results of the U.S. midterm elections and later the results of the 2020 presidential election itself. Separately, in mid-2019, the Chinese...
it makes you wonder, okay, so China's got to favor one political party over another. I think that's got to be crystal clear. Otherwise, why the hell are they doing that? Either one party's going to win or the other party is going to win. So which party do you think that China most likely wants to win over the other? It's obviously a rhetorical question.
Government strategy against the United States was focused on undermining domestic confidence in the U.S. president. They wanted to just make you sound like your president wasn't so hot, when actually your president has done a great job, and they did everything possible to do exactly that. Going on, this document says, and this is by the CIA,
wow, dude.
The strategy included efforts to use Chinese contacts with big U.S. companies to influence U.S. business leaders to turn against the President of the United States of America.
No wonder the mainstream media is not broadcasting this.
The Chinese government sought to identify U.S. journalists who had reported negatively on the U.S. president and pay them large sums of money to write more negative articles about him, as many as they could, and they didn't care what they said.
For years and years.
The Chinese government wanted U.S. president to lose the next election, and the reason they wanted me to lose is because they knew I was wise to them. Charged them billions and billions of dollars worth of tariffs and built the strongest military anywhere in the world. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world. These are exact quotes from the CIA reporting. The name of the person doing the quote is now under review, but it gets even worse. Raw intelligence obtained by the FBI in 2020, yet buried by rogue bureaucrats, stated that China's activities even included an attempt to manufacture illegal ballots for Joe Biden. Documents show that during this...
And look, he's saying that this is all documented, that he's got documents for all of this. And which political party is the party that's trying to drag us all towards socialism and communism? I don't think it's the Republican Party, is it? I somehow don't think it is.
Dozens of significant CIA and NSA reports about China's election targeting were kept out of
they're communists,
presidential
right?
briefing.
Democrats, they want to become communists, right?
I would get almost every day. Everything was kept out that was of importance. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had, quote, deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known and to keep it away from the honorable press.
Well, of course. And they also didn't want us to know about the lab leak, which was obviously intentional, about the whole COVID-19 situation.
Other officials who witnessed such efforts perceived the motivations to be blatantly political.
That's what they wanted.
Recently, we found significant numbers of burn bags in formation. This is a group of bags that were used to destroy information given by President Barack Hussein Obama.
Well, you know, a lot of them were burned up, too.
It was supposed to be burned. These bags were supposed to be...
But some of them were not burned.
Different level by different people, incinerated and checked, but it never happened. Maybe we got lucky. We believe this was not done on purpose, but rather through gross incompetence of the people that was supposed to burn the bag. Not as efficient as you think. But the findings are stunning. Today, I'm asking the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the CIA to investigate how and why such crucial information was hidden, to fire those involved in the cover-up, and to file criminal charges, if appropriate, against these people. Yet concealing China's meddling was only the beginning. The third set of documents we are releasing proves that for many years, Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems. Dishonest, almost all. They're vulnerable and they're easily compromised, and people within our government knew that.
Well, yeah, and the D.C. bureaucracy, they're trying to cover all that up, or they were effective at covering all of it up for a period of years. And in the D.C. bureaucracy, it's 90%, 91% of the D.C. bureaucracy who votes, they vote Democrat, interestingly.
Tonight, we're publishing a series of previously classified U.S. intelligence community assessments and other reports proving that our government has long known these machines are extremely exposed to attack. As one assessment states, we judge that the United States adversaries, including at a minimum Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, as well as non-state groups, have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. That's unquote, but that's some statement, isn't it? Made by supposedly great patriots of our country. The document goes on to further state that, quote, we assess that centralized election-related data repositories, such as voter registration databases, poll books, and other official election websites, are most vulnerable to exploitation, and adversaries could use this access to these systems to disrupt election processes within the United States of America. Tonight, we're releasing all of those findings, and spanning from January 2020 to June 2026. This is a cyber threat aimed at the very heart of our democracy. Many people have questioned whether it could actually be possible to electronically manipulate vote totals or change election results on these terrible machines. Today, we are releasing documents that show the CIA obtained reporting of a specific plot to do a big number in favor of the corrupt Maduro regime in Venezuela.
Wow.
And that's exactly what happened, conspiring to digitally rig their own country's elections in 2020, and that's what they did.
I wonder if they use the Dominion voting system in Venezuela, because obviously we use the Dominion voting system here, and the entire company was purchased. I don't remember the organization specifically. I just know that it's some conservative organization that they purchased the company and dug through all of their details, their files, and so on and so forth. Maybe that's kind of baked into some of these documents that are being released too.
This reporting included precise details about methods to regime develop to digitally alter vote totals in ways that could not be detected even with an audit, no matter how deep they went. This intelligence underscores why we must take urgent action to ensure that our own system can never, ever be hacked or compromised like it was in the past.
Yeah, they want us to be communists,
The fourth set of documents reveals that even when significant evidence of fraud has been detected, it has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out the Vote organization, corrupt group.
Of course they did.
In Muskegon. And we're so concerned by what they found. They were just so concerned, they couldn't believe it, actually, that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. The documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registration for people who did not exist, and received gift cards tied to their number of applications that they produced.
Yep.
In other words, it was pay, play, and cheat. The FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, yet the Biden Department of Justice slow-walked the investigation and killed it.
Oh, you know, they totally buried it. Of course they did.
Tonight, I'm asking the FBI director to ensure that the matter is fully investigated and to work with the Department of Justice to prosecute those responsible for any crimes. Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be, we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review of state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections.
Oh my God,
Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files,
the
real number is actually much higher than that.
Sanctuary states.
Yet,
sanctuary for a reason.
This limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote. Put together these disclosures.
Yeah, and you know what? I bet there's a great majority of those foreigners probably have no fucking clue that they're even registered in any way, shape, or form. Probably don't have any idea. They don't have a clue because they've got these secret organizations in places like Michigan that are filling out certain ballots, voting for a certain candidate.
Reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption.
If this happened 40, 50 years ago, if a foreign government completely compromised our entire election system and gathered all the names of all of us, the government would absolutely overhaul the entire system and have to somehow start it from scratch. Both parties would 100% agree to do so unless one of those parties was working with that adversarial government to make this happen in the first place.
China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls.
Clean up the voter rolls.
We still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship. And
I just covered that yesterday. The Department of Justice, Harmeet Dillon with the Civil Rights Division, they're digging into California and trying to remove over 800,000 names that are ineligible for voting in the state of California because either they're dead or they haven't voted in the last 5 election cycles.
Tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail. As one example of the insanity, California's recent election for mayor of LA and governor was held on June 2nd, a long time ago, but it was just completed a few days ago on July 10th.
So
think of that,
insane,
much
dude.
more
It's
than
so
1
retarded.
month.
Why so
Took
long?
a month to count the votes. I wonder what they were doing.
I know, right?
This is worse
Takes
than
a long time to
any
handwrite shit down,
third world country. There's no third world country that has elections like we have.
Nope.
In a rare move, NBC and ABC Fake News have both said that they would not cover this speech. They knew what it was about because of the fact that they don't like the topic, because they know how corrupt our system is, and they don't want to reveal it.
Get paid a lot of money.
Others in the media are part of a plot. They want to continue this fraud for whatever reason. They want to keep it going.
They want us to be
They
communists.
want to protect the radical left. They can't have a great country, and that's true. You can't have a great country without
they want to be
free
the oligarchs.
and fair elections. Fraud like this should mean a revocation of their licenses. They use our public multi-billion-dollar in value airways for absolutely no money. They pay nothing.
Unreal.
All we want is honesty in our elections and honesty in reporting. They pay nothing for
objective reporting.
multi-billion-dollar assets. Great damage has been done to our country. Our elections were left vulnerable to being rigged and stolen, and the trust of the American people was lost. This cannot be allowed to continue. Every American, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or otherwise, should be able to agree that we deserve the most secure, honest, and fair election system anywhere in the world. Secure elections should be a partisan, really, we should be together, Democrats, Republicans,
united.
Independents, everybody. And it should not be a partisan issue. It should cause to unite us, not to divide us. This should be a cause. We should be united, not divided. In light of the brand new and irrefutable information I have revealed tonight, my administration is in the process of notifying the states whose election data was compromised by the People's Republic of China and many others.
I mean, come on, dude. Let's be real. That these certain states, they probably weren't compromised. They probably just handed it all over to them on a freaking silver platter, probably.
We'll be working closely to mitigate any harm, and
we're
taking swift action to ensure that sensitive voter data is better protected, so we can never be bought, we can never be hacked, and we can never watch a stolen election again. Tomorrow, the Secretary of Homeland Security will hold a briefing to outline his department's recent work confirming cyber vulnerabilities in our electronic voting systems. They are bad. We're in the process of informing government.
Now look, after hearing all of this and the documents get released, and they are all official documents, all FBI intelligence documents, they've combed through everything and it's all been presented. So the Democrats, they really honestly, if they're not guilty of anything, they should come out and say, well, we absolutely should fortify our elections better. This is alarming information. We're just now hearing about this also. So we do want to investigate all the bureaucrats and arrest anybody who's been involved with colluding with China to obtain all of our voter information. 220 million names, I think he said, something insane like that. And do you really think that the Democrats are going to do that? I have a feeling that they're not. I have a feeling they're just going to scream evil, big, bad, evil man, orange man, Trump over and over again, and they're just going to lash out and go absolutely psychopathic like they usually do, because it's almost as if Trump is directly over the target.
Governors, senators, and members of Congress of potential issues in their states.
I hope I'm wrong, by the way.
If you look at voting today, it's in such bad shape in so many states.
Hopefully Democrats say this is an outrage.
To fix it.
We must fix our elections.
We're also committing to be working with those states and local jurisdictions to help them fix and patch known technical vulnerabilities before the midterm elections. We have very important elections coming up. We want those elections to be honest.
Yes, we do.
I've also ordered DHS to notify every state about non-citizens on their voter rolls and direct them to remove all ineligible voters from the lists immediately.
Which, of course, they won't do.
But most importantly, addressing this crisis of election security demands that Congress must pass the Save America Act.
Absolutely. But they're not.
Easy
because
is
Democrats
that
are behind all this shit that he's talking about.
Cheat. The only reason you wouldn't do it is you want to cheat because your policies are so bad.
It's that simple. voter
and your candidates
ID.
are so pathetic that you can't get away or can't get elected any other way. This landmark bill requires that all
why they're fighting
voters
so hard
must
against
show photo,
It's the only way they can win.
voter ID. How simple is that? Could I have your photo, please? Photo, voter ID. All voters must provide proof of citizenship.
81% of Democrat voters,
Are you
they
a
agree with
citizen
it.
of our country, please? And hopefully there will be no corrupt mail-in ballots, which if you watched California and so many other places,
Oh, yeah. Blanket
mail-in
ballot.
ballots are inherently corrupt.
Yep.
So you would have no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military deployment, or travel if you're going away on business or vacation. These reforms are urgently needed to stop the vulnerabilities that I've mentioned. To
Yeah.
all
Make it a
Americans,
national
I ask
holiday.
you to
Go
pick
vote in
up your
person.
phone tomorrow, call your representatives in the House and Senate, and demand that they pass the Save America Act without delay. Together we
Amen.
will restore faith and
That's
confidence
also why the
in our
mainstream news
country,
isn't showing this.
and we will be bigger,
They don't
better,
want people
and
calling their
stronger than ever
elected representatives.
before. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our great military. And God bless America.
God bless the troops.
Thank you very much.
God bless America. That's what I sign off with every end of the show. So, holy smokes, man. A lot of classified documents are going to be coming out. I'm going to be adding those links down in the description, just also the first two that he covered, and also whitehouse.gov. And after I'm done recording this, I'll go to whitehouse.gov and see. Actually, matter of fact, I might as well just look at it now. Well, I got to their press releases section on whitehouse.gov. It doesn't look like that they've quite released it just yet. It's 10:08 p.m. as of this recording. The most recent, Unleashing Global Campaign to Crush Radical Left Terrorism. That was with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, which we're going to get to here in a little bit in this video. So I'll keep an eye on this. If they release it within the next couple of hours, maybe few hours, then I'll add it to the description of this video. But regardless, it should be fairly easy to find. If you're on the X platform, you don't even have to be signed in to use the X platform. You just go to x.com and then you can use the search feature and then just type in White House. It'll take you directly to the White House's profile. Matter of fact, they might actually just have it posted here already. 19 minutes. Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in the election. Yep, here we go. But to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. It looks like they did drop the link. It is right here, and therefore it is in the description of this video. Ensuring the integrity of our elections is fundamental to preserving trust in American democracy. Following the 2020 presidential election, concerns about potential irregularities prompted detailed examinations of voting processes, data security, and registration practices across multiple states. Below you can download documents and reports addressing key areas of election integrity. So they just posted this 19 minutes ago, brand new. Let's see. So vulnerabilities in electronic voting and ballot counting systems. Also China's acquisition and exploitation of American voter data. They also have a section on Michigan voter registration investigation, as well as non-citizens on state voter rolls, which I believe he said it was somewhere around the 250,000 number of non-citizens that are apparently either eligible or either registered to vote or they are actively voting. So it goes into more detail here. This is obviously the first time that I'm looking at this, but they've got it sectioned off in those 4 sections I just named off. So that is definitely going to be linked, and you can have a look at that. I will definitely keep a close eye on that throughout the day tomorrow. I imagine that the left-wing news, the mainstream media, a lot of the Democrat politicians are going to absolutely lose their ever-loving minds over this. They're going to go absolutely apeshit because it's almost as if they might be guilty of something. Otherwise, why would they be freaking out? We're supposed to be keeping our elections fortified. Everything that Trump says should be completely and perfectly tolerable and acceptable. But somehow, I have a feeling that Democrats are going to absolutely freak the F out over this. All right, so let's head back. Now that we've got Trump's speech out of the way, that was the big announcement for today. The White House has been announcing that for the last couple of days. And I believe that there was speculation on the election, the Save America Act, because he's been hammering Congress and the media on the Save America Act for, hell, it's been really months at this point, but he's been driving it especially hard over the last several days. And of course, now we know, among many other reasons, why he's been driving it so hard. And anyway, so let's move on to the next topic. Secretary Marco Rubio. Today, I convened leaders from around the world for a ministerial meeting on the resurgence of political terrorism, driven by a rising tide of violent left-wing extremism. Together, we must rebuild our counterterrorism architecture to defeat the new wave of this old evil. So there's just some photos of him giving his speech, and we do have some of the highlights as well as the entire video. I figured we'd go through the highlights because I wasn't sure how long Trump's speech was. It actually ran slightly longer than I expected it to. I figured it probably would have been like maybe 15 minutes or so, but that's all right. It went just a little bit longer. From the U.S. Senior Advisor for Arab and African Affairs, he says today the United States Department of State, under the leadership of Secretary Rubio, is convening governments from across the globe at the Ministerial on the resurgence of political terrorism to address the rise of far-left political terrorism as a transnational threat. Something like 70 countries. It actually was probably more than that, but it was a pretty high number of countries that participated or that showed up to this event. And this is a long quote. Looks like we're going to start with this one, so let's give it a go.
This is a distinctive and unique evil. It has always been driven by a hatred, above all else, a hatred for civilization itself. It is a revolt of the worst against the best, a revolt of the weak and the cowardly against the strong and the good. It is perpetrated by those who cannot build, who cannot create, who cannot achieve great things, and take their revenge upon the world for their own inadequacy by seeking to destroy those who can. This is what radical leftism is. It may wear various different slogans and ideologies across place and time.
Ideologies.
They can call themselves anti-capitalist or anti-imperialist, communist or anarchist or Marxist, but the fundamental character is always the same. It's always the same. It is a poisonous resentment cloaked in the language of equality and justice and liberation.
Oh, yeah.
An overwhelming need to tear down what greater men have built, to wreck what is beautiful and what is right.
Absolutely. Strip away our individualism.
Who are only filled with
embrace collectivism
and have nothing else to offer the world. Through violence and through terror, they once again seek to impose their ugliness on all of us.
Absolutely, because the pathway to hell is always paved with good intentions. Obviously, they want to destroy the nuclear family. They want to destroy all forms of culture and traditionalism. And, I mean, clearly they want to destroy the nuclear family with regard to abortion, making everybody gay, and so on and so forth, not to get dug into the weeds on that one. So, anyway, I'll just digress and we'll go to the next one from Dylan Johnson, and he is with what department? The Assistant Secretary of State for Global Public Affairs. And he posted this: Secretary Rubio, this is a distinctive and unique evil. It has always been driven by a hatred, above all else, for civilization itself. It looks like these are all going to be words from Secretary Marco Rubio here in this video, so let's go straight to it.
This is a distinctive and unique evil. It has always been driven by a hatred, above all else, a hatred for civilization itself. It is a revolt of the worst against the best, a revolt of the weak and the cowardly against the strong and the good.
Absolutely.
It is perpetrated by those who cannot build.
They're trying to brainwash you when you're young in school.
Who cannot achieve great things and take their revenge upon the world for their own inadequacy by seeking to destroy those who can. This is what radical leftism is. It may wear various different slogans and ideologies across place and time. They can call themselves anti-capitalist, or anti-imperialist, or communist, or anarchist, or Marxist. But the fundamental character is always the same. It's always the same.
Yeah, it's always the same.
It is a poisonous resentment cloaked in the language of equality and justice and liberation.
It's bullshit.
An overwhelming need to tear down what greater men have built, to wreck what is beautiful.
I think we already saw this, didn't we? Just in case we didn't, I don't want to keep replaying the same clips over and over. It tends to happen when I pull videos from different accounts. I try to avoid doing that, but I will repost that. There's a direct link to my profile below in the description, just in case, maybe just by chance that I'm wrong on that. And we'll just go to the next one. Let's see. We will dismantle these networks brick by brick. It is time for the people of the civilized world to defend ourselves. I don't think that we saw this clip from
through
earlier.
Intelligence and information sharing, through coordinated law enforcement strategy, through financial targeting and disruption, we will dismantle these networks brick by brick.
God
willing,
man.
For the people of the civilized world to defend ourselves, to stand united against this encroaching darkness and fight for what is ours. It is easy.
It's kind of hard to do when your elected officials are also communists too.
It is far more difficult to make.
Makes it a little convoluted.
The enemies of civilization are only capable of the former. They are only capable of destroying great things. All they know is destruction. But we have built great things together. We have done it time and again. We know what we must do, and now we must do it. Thank you for coming today.
Okay, well, that turned out to be the end of his speech. So I got everything all backwards today. But I don't know. I have a feeling that's probably why they opened up the floodgates over in Europe and they allowed in all these immigrants by the millions. They just let them pour into the country so they could start to inject these radical ideologies into the system, because these people who are now in the country would be kind of more gullible, more easier to just play along because they don't know the system all that well. They're new arrivals, and, you know, it just goes downhill from there, I would imagine. I mean, also, it just injects just a whole new level of chaos into everything. So anyway, so many people in positions of power have repeatedly dismissed acts of violence and terrorism as legitimate forms of political expression, so long as they served a left-wing cause. Of course.
It is the reason why, here in my country, so many people in positions of power have repeatedly dismissed acts of violence and even terrorism as legitimate forms of political expression,
all the time.
So long
Antifa's just
as
an
they
idea,
serve
Biden
a
said.
left-wing cause. It is why during those so-called George Floyd riots in the summer of 2020, as criminals and extremists burned and looted their way through America's great cities and nearly brought the country to its knees,
they wanted to.
City governments all across the country simply refused to prosecute the people conducting these acts of violence and terror.
Yeah, and what did Black Lives Matter do with, what was it, over $100 million that was donated to the organization? Oh, yeah, that's right. The leaders bought a bunch of friggin' mansions with it.
It's the reason for the now infamous image.
Because that's real communism.
You all recall this, of a news anchor from a very prominent agency, a news anchor, standing in a neighborhood, consumed in flames. Meanwhile, the chyron on the bottom read,
mostly peaceful.
Protests were mostly peaceful.
Mostly peaceful protests.
It is the reason
Can't
why
make that shit up.
Here in my country, so many people in positions of power.
I mean, somebody actually made a really good analogy with that. Like, well, Jeffrey Dahmer, he was mostly peaceful. He was totally peaceful for about 98% of his life. There was only 2% of his life where he was just downright evil. You know, for probably 18 hours out of the day, he was perfectly fine. And when he was out in public and so on and so forth, but there was just that little bit where he was just an absolute psychopathic serial killer.
Have repeatedly dismissed acts of violence and even terrorism as legitimate forms of political expression, so long as they served a left-wing cause. It is why during those so-called George Floyd riots in the summer of 2020, as criminals and extremists burned and looted their way through America's great cities and nearly brought the country to its knees, city governments all across the country simply refused to prosecute
they did.
People conducting these acts of violence.
They got on their knees and
the reason
okay, whatever.
For the now infamous image, maybe you all recall this, of a news anchor from a very prominent agency, a news anchor, standing in a neighborhood, consumed in flames. Meanwhile, the chyron on the bottom read that the protests were mostly peaceful.
Well, of course. They were mostly peaceful. They're always mostly peaceful. Anyway, whatever. So I don't want to play that yet again. All right, so for far too long, however, our counterterrorism doctrine has had a blind spot when it comes to extremist violence from the political left.
The number of people killed by jihadist terrorism in Europe dropped by roughly 97%.
97?
From the year 2015 to the year 2024. In other words, to a very great extent, our counterterrorism strategy has worked.
Worked
the
quite
threat
well.
has not disappeared, of course. It will continue to exist, particularly so long as we tolerate immigration systems that imports these threats directly into our respective homelands. But this threat has been severely diminished. The world looks very different today because of it. For far too long, however, our counterterrorism doctrine has had a blind spot when it comes to extremist violence from the political left.
I think, as far as with the left injecting their ideology into all the halls of power, I think it's more of a blind. I think they're just completely full-on blind now. Anyway, Secretary Rubio, this is a distinctive and unique evil. It has always been driven by hatred above all else for civilization itself. That sounds familiar. Let me see. Department of State. That might have been from maybe Dylan Johnson. I'll give it a go. If it sounds familiar, we'll go to the next one. There's only a few left.
This is a distinctive and unique evil. It has always been driven by a hatred, above all else, a hatred for civilization itself. It is a revolt of the worst against the best, a revolt of the weak and the cowardly against the strong and the good.
Yeah, we did hear that. Okay. Anyway, just in case I'm wrong, we're reposting, but I distinctly remember him saying that, and I'm sure he's not repeating himself during the same speech. The most essential duty of the state, the first responsibility of any government of any kind, is the protection of its people.
So let me start by saying that the most essential duty of the state, the first responsibility, frankly, of any government of any kind, is the protection of its people. It's the protection of its country. This is a sacred obligation that should transcend all political and all ideological divisions. It is why, for example, we have militaries. It's why we have intelligence agencies. It's why counterterrorism bureaus exist, why police forces exist. Keeping our people safe is the reason why every country represented here has all of these things.
Well, absolutely. So, yeah, obviously I completely mucked the order of this completely up, but that's okay because I've got the entire thing. I'm not going to play it now, obviously. That's why I grabbed some of the highlights. Unfortunately, some of them were duplicates, but that's okay. I will repost this as well. This is the entirety of Secretary Marco Rubio's speech. So you can watch the whole thing, or you can go to State Department, DEPT, over on the X platform, or you can click on the link below to my profile in the description, and it'll take you straight to this video. And why not? While I'm at it, I'll do this one as well. Secretary Rubio hosts the Ministerial on the Resurgence of Political Terrorism at the State Department. I believe that this includes not only Secretary Rubio, but also a few others who give speeches too. Yeah, see, this one's an hour and 10 minutes long, so I will do the same there. And let's head down to Stephen Miller. He also gives a brief speech from the podium. Left-wing terrorism always ends in bloodshed, misery, and suffering. It can only travel in one direction. There is no point at which the left-wing terrorist is satisfied with his gains. No, they're never satisfied, obviously.
President Trump issued a directive in our parlance. It's called a National Security Presidential Memorandum, or NSPM. NSPM 7, to be exact, that directs, for the first time in American history, all of our law enforcement and intelligence agencies to work together to disrupt, identify, defund, debank, arrest, and prosecute these political terrorists that are operating in our country.
God willing, man.
It's very important to understand
Needs to happen.
that left-wing political terrorism seeks as its ultimate end the overthrow of our system and form of government.
Yep.
And we've seen this.
That's why they're infiltrating as elected
many
officials
places throughout the years, and Secretary Rubio has provided you many examples.
That's why Mom Donnie's endorsing so many of them.
Left-wing,
because he might be one of them.
Terrorism always ends in bloodshed, misery, and suffering. It only can travel in one direction. There's no point at which the left-wing terrorist is satisfied with his gains and ceases progressing.
Yeah, but what did Mom Donnie say when he got elected? The warm embrace of collectivism. I mean, dude, just people are just so lost, man. It's unbelievable. Like, they're just omitting so many important parts of our history from the classrooms. It's sickening, to be honest. Anyway, so let's move on to the White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, who was at the podium today from the White House. 14 straight months of zero illegal aliens released into our nation. In June, illegal crossings were at historic lows, and apprehensions were down 94% compared to the same period under the Biden administration. Under President Trump, we're delivering the most secure border in history. Let's give it a go.
Finally, let's turn to the border. Brand new numbers this week from the Department of Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection confirm that for the 14th straight month, this administration has released zero illegal aliens into the United States. Again, let me reiterate, the 14th straight month, not a single illegal criminal alien has been entered into our country, released into our country by this administration. Illegal crossings in June remained at historic lows, and Southwest border apprehensions are down 94% compared to the same period under the Biden administration. These numbers speak for themselves. Thanks to President Trump's strong leadership and unwavering commitment to law enforcement, America has the most secure border we have ever had in our nation's history.
Hallelujah. At least for now, until Democrats get back in. And of course, they're going to give every reason under the sun why our borders are just not as secure as they were under the big, bad, evil Trump administration. The border is secure and deportations will continue. Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, we will continue delivering on the president's mandate from the American people to remove criminal, illegal aliens from our communities.
The administration continues working to reverse the previous influx of millions of illegal aliens into our country by the Biden administration, and our law enforcement professionals, God bless them, are arresting criminal illegal aliens across the country, including those convicted of the most heinous and violent crimes. This past weekend alone, ICE arrested a Mexican national and gang member convicted of second-degree murder in California, a Dominican national convicted of aggravated manslaughter in New Jersey, a Saudi national convicted of indecent liberties with a child in North Carolina, a Mexican national convicted of continuous sexual abuse of a child in California, a Nicaraguan national convicted of second-degree child molestation in Rhode Island, and a Mexican national convicted of lewd acts with a child under 14 with force in California. These are egregious.
Well, yeah, and how are the Democrat politicians, how are they treating these molesters? Oh, yeah, that, like, where was that, in Minnesota? Oh, yeah, that's right, they're pardoning them, like Governor Tim Walz was doing after the dude spent, like, what was it, like 20 years in jail. Governor Tim Walz and the Attorney General Keith Ellison of Minnesota, and also the Chief Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court, they decided to pardon him. So it sounds like they're trying to establish some sort of precedence, some sort of new normal, that as long as you behave yourself for a period of time, no matter how many egregious things that you did to American children, or any children in the world for that matter, we'll just give you a full-on pardon, and it'll be expunged from your record, and off you go.
And again, I think we can all agree that none of you would want these individuals living in your communities, and you have this administration to thank that they are on their way back home. The American people delivered a decisive mandate to arrest and deport these dangerous criminals, and President Trump is wholeheartedly committed to delivering on that mandate every day. He will never waver in his duty to defend our homeland and protect the American people, and he has proven without a shadow of doubt that the chaos and the lawlessness that we saw every single day at the border and across our country under the Biden administration was a choice, and it is a choice this president has chosen not to make. While this work is far from finished, the border is secure, and deportations will continue.
Yep, they emptied out their prison systems, they set them up in caravans, and then they marched right up to the southern border, and the Biden administration let every one of them in. We've seen the footage. We've seen the footage of thousands, by the thousands, pouring into America, and it was just free, open, just countryside for them to just pour right on into, and they just waltzed their way right into our country. Iran very much continues to talk to the United States of America and express that they want to make a deal with us because they are suffering devastating blows on behalf of the United States military, says Karoline Leavitt. In the memorandum of understanding that they signed it, they were not to fire on commercial vessels moving through the Strait of Hormuz. And unfortunately, they did just that. They made the tragic decision for them to do that. The president is not going to sit by and allow these active acts of terrorism to take place in the Strait without ensuring Iran pays consequences for that. And I believe that they did conduct yet another round of strikes against Iran today, which we'll also get to.
Well, I've spoken with the president about this as recently as an hour ago. Iran very much continues to talk to the United States of America and express that they want to make a deal with us because they are suffering devastating blows on behalf of our United States military.
Well, the reason, like really, and this is
important for the American people to understand, the reason for the recent strikes over the course of the last several days is because Iran violated the memorandum of understanding that we struck with them. Specifically, in the memorandum of understanding that they signed, they were not to fire on commercial vessels moving through the Strait of Hormuz.
And they fired at air bases in Jordan, so I read.
They have made the tragic decision for them to do that. And President Trump is not going to sit by and allow these active acts of terrorism to take place in the Strait without ensuring Iran pays consequences for that, and that's what we are witnessing right now.
That's what we're witnessing right now, just kind of taking it day by day. Vehicle stops are continuing. The president and Secretary Mullen with the Department of Homeland Security, they're on the same page that vehicle stops are a necessary tool that ICE agents need in order to continue their deportation campaign of the worst illegal alien criminals from our country.
So a couple of things. Vehicle stops are continuing. Verbal guidance has been given to all field offices across the country by the Department of Homeland Security. The president and the Secretary of Homeland Security are on the same page that vehicle stops are a necessary tool that ICE agents need in order to continue their deportation campaign of the worst illegal alien criminals from our country. With respect to body cameras, I know there's been some questions about that in recent days. Over half of all ICE field offices now do have body cameras,
and
the remainder of the field offices are expected within 60 days. It's been a slower rollout than we would have hoped, but that's because of the Democrats' decision to shut down DHS for several weeks. So
there you go.
We expect to fully execute on the promise of body cams to all field offices across the country very soon.
Look, man, I'll buy that. That makes sense. I mean, because they did defund the Department of Homeland Security for, what was it, like 70 days or 72 days? They probably would have had body cameras by now as long as they had continued to be funded. Although, I know, I get it. The one big beautiful bill, I think DHS got X amount of billions, so it was like 60 or $70 billion or something like that. Look, the money could have come from somewhere. Maybe that was kind of a political answer that she said. But regardless, man, they should have had body cameras for years at this point. I think it's ridiculous that federal agents have not had body cams, especially with the insane amount of our national deficit. All the money had to go somewhere. You think they would have just taken, I don't know, just a tiny little drop from that bucket and equipped everybody with body cameras, maybe not to release to the public or make it publicly available in all instances, but at least have it on the record in case something like this were to happen, or certain shootings, whether if it's self-defense, whether it needs investigated, whether if there was like a rogue agent that just decided to shoot at somebody unnecessarily. I mean, whatever the case was, it'd just be nice if we had it all on body cam. Anyway, I would encourage everyone tune in tonight. Safe and secure elections are a true tenet of our constitutional republic, and the president will be speaking about that tonight. Okay, so that's probably when the mainstream media decided to shut off all their red lights, and they didn't cover President Trump's speech tonight because Karoline Leavitt mentioned what it was about.
I've seen a lot of reporting and, frankly, misreporting about what the president will say. I think the American people will be relieved to hear what they are hearing from the president of the United States and his commitment to transparency and the focus on the integrity of our elections tonight. I think all Republicans and Democrats should recognize this should be a nonpartisan issue. If we don't have safe and secure elections in our country, we cannot have a country. It is a vital part of our democracy,
unless
of our
one of those political parties
republic.
are in on it.
The president will be speaking about that tonight. And
if they're in on it, they would certainly be against it,
now, wouldn't they? Of course, he is working on all of these economic issues that the American people have at home. I just read to you the latest inflation numbers are looking good, the best report in 6 years. The president,
could be better, but at least they're going in the right direction.
Republicans and Democrats and all Americans have this president to thank for the largest tax cuts in American history, which every Democrat on Capitol Hill voted against.
Every one of them.
You have this
all
president to
no.
thank for the Trump accounts for our children and securing the future of the American dream. So this president is doing a lot, but obviously safe and secure elections are a true tenet of our constitutional republic, and the president will be speaking about that tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting over the next 24 hours to read both sides combing through these documents and this data. Democrats are going to say, oh, there's nothing here. It's all redacted. It's all black. And then you're going to see the documents come from the other side, which are going to be just crystal clear in what it is that they're saying, whereas the exact same documents that the Democrats might be releasing. I'm not saying that they're going to do this, but it wouldn't surprise me if some of these images that they're showing are going to be like full-on 100% redacted. Then you're going to get from the other side, there's no redactions anywhere to be seen. Like that, somebody over there on that side, on the left, is obviously meddling with these documents to make it look like that there's nothing here when everything is here. But I have no idea. I'm just speculating. I just have a feeling that it's probably going to play out in a similar kind of way to that. All right, so Mehek Cook says the Supreme Court sent the birthright citizenship fight to Congress. Jim Banks' bill would curb illegal immigration and birth tourism by protecting citizenship for those who follow the law. Legal immigrants should not be punished for playing by the rules, and they shouldn't.
Birthright citizenship, though. Your thoughts, Mehek?
Well, I think the Supreme Court got it wrong. They were dead wrong, and this is where I'm with Justice Kavanaugh. Even though he was in the dissent, he talked about legislation to clarify. The framers never
constantly
intended
under threat by the left.
I mean, think about it. I've been through the immigration process. I came here as a legal immigrant to think that my rights are equal to an illegal that crosses many countries, including Mexico, to come to this country, has a baby here, or the Chinese nationals that are coming here, to have the same rights that I and my family have when we came through this process legally. I mean, this is where I want to challenge due process and equal protection and say, what about the legal immigrants here? So I think if Senator Banks can close this, get through the finish line, I want to have more faith in our Congress and our Senate today. I don't, because we can't pass the Save America Act. But if we can do this, then we can have some hope that the Supreme Court can level set and get this right.
Heck, you don't think Congress should be worried about any blowback or potential things getting emotional out there? If they believe in that, they should go through with it, right?
Well, yes, the Democrats are going to continue to want to save the anchor babies and continue. And they've always been. They hate America. Look at what the socialists are doing. So there's going to be high stakes and emotions, like Reagan has said. But the right thing to do is also think about the legal immigrants. So I have a due process claim and equal protection claim here.
They don't care about them.
The birth tourism.
They only care that they get counted in blue districts for the census.
To address than that offspring of people who entered illegally. Why? Because the offspring of someone who entered illegally lives here, domiciled. Yeah. If you come in,
bring all their family with them
and leave, you're not living here. That one, in my opinion, could be fixed more easily.
Do you think that could be turned into something completely separate from the 14th Amendment?
I do.
I agree too. And it is an easier issue to address.
It's much easier to address.
And it's more palatable, I think, just given the
I think also, I think of people, you know, who have come to this country, who have become American citizens. As you mentioned, Mehak, I have a friend who did. I mean, and the process he had to go through.
Grueling.
And also, I think the promises that you make as an American citizen, that's very different from if you're, you know, dropped on U.S. soil and officially you're a citizen.
People don't realize it violates U.S. immigration law to come in for the express purpose of having a child.
It absolutely does.
But here comes the kicker that everybody slept through.
But if they're born here, they're born here.
Guam and the Mariana Islands often don't require a visa, so they go there and they have the baby.
And then have the baby there. But Mehak, I don't think that the bulk of the issue lies in people coming in, having the kid, and leaving. It's coming in illegally, having a child, now staying here permanently.
Yes, and this is what we have to address here, because you're giving the same rights of American citizens and legal immigrants to illegals. I mean, we've already had a socialist structure of handouts. New York City was giving not only debit cards, but free hotels. How much more are they going to waste of taxpayer dollars? Think about that.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And food. And there were complaints about
Yeah, and I think if the left-wing extremism, the left-wing terrorism that was being engaged against the Supreme Court justices, I think that decision would have gone completely the other way had that not been a major issue. From NBC News, a 28-year-old man has died after being hit by a tractor trailer while fleeing, quote-unquote, an encounter. Isn't that interesting how they put that in quotes? They were fleeing, well, just an encounter. We don't know what encounter means, but no, obviously, no, this 28-year-old man, probably an illegal immigrant, probably trying to get stopped by Immigration and Customs Enforcement because they have an arrest warrant for him, but he decided to take off and engage in a high-speed chase in which he crashed into a semi-truck and ended up deleting himself as a result with ICE agents in Florida. This is the second ICE-related fatality this week and the third since a small business owner was killed in Houston on July 7th. Dude, just the comments alone that I was reading earlier were just, you know, pretty on point. Looking for your reporting on these facts. Over 50 ICE shootings occurred from 2015 through 2021, and at least 50 detainees died in ICE custody under Obama. More than 3 million people were deported under Obama. A majority were removed without ever even seeing a judge. And yet no riots, no moral panic. This outrage isn't organic. It's created. Why would you put an encounter in quotes? Exactly. We don't despise you enough. More than 2,700 migrant deaths were confirmed at the U.S.-Mexico border between fiscal years 2021 and 2024 during the Biden administration. When ICE says stop, you need to collaborate and listen. Yeah, like why frame it like that? Yeah, exactly. Did you report this illegal alien-related fatality? A 7-year-old Ivory Smith was killed by an illegal immigrant who ran a red light while drunk in Houston. He had been released despite an ICE detainer. Sanctuary policies killed this little girl and also other children as well. Hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans have died at the hands of illegal immigrants, not just from driving, but from heinous crimes as well. How many illegal alien-related fatalities have you reported on? Exactly. Probably zero. I would just take a wild guess to say probably zero. ICE, how many must die? Exactly. But anyway. Oh, no, never mind. That was from the others. Yeah, no. Anyway, so you left out the key parts in your tweet, but that's what we come to expect from Democrats, media, lapdogs. You know, like both sides will be chiming in here and there. You think that this will make me angry, but Schadenfreude-ometer, mainstream Americans hearing the news that another young innocent brown person was mowed down in an address. Okay, so it looks like they're going to be, yeah, so now it looks like they're just getting into the articles. But anyway, so I'll read a little bit of the article. I didn't really plan on really reading much of it, but anyway, it's here. Might as well. And man fleeing ICE killed by a tractor trailer on a Florida highway. So why didn't they just put that in the post? Just keep it that simple. Man fleeing ICE was killed by a tractor trailer on a Florida highway. That's literally what happened. Subjectively what happened. Instead of just like putting all these ridiculous verbiages in quotes. But anyway, okay, so they paywalled it. NBC News. I guess they're paywalling everything now, which I was not aware of. I'm actually pretty surprised that NBC News is paywalling now. I didn't think that they would ever do that, but. So there you go. I guess I can't read it even if I wanted to because NBC News just doesn't want me to. They don't want people to unless you pay for it. All right, whatever. Let's see. So Walz questioned deportations of a pardoned child sex offender. Will American-born child rapists get full pardons in Minnesota if they behave for 20 years? Or do illegal immigrants exclusively have that privilege? I think probably the latter is probably the case. Just being honest. Tulay Vang, a Laotian refugee convicted in 2006 of repeatedly assaulting a 10-year-old girl, received a full pardon from Minnesota's Board of Pardons on June 10th, chaired by Governor Walz. The board cited a forgiveness letter from the now adult victim. Vangs expressed remorse 20 years without offenses and his family of 6 U.S. citizen children. Federal officials quickly deported him to Laos around July 10th, which, by the way, is 6 children. Did he have those 6 children by, how old was their mother? Was she a minor the entire time that these children were born? I mean, I don't know. I just got to ask the question. Federal officials quickly deported him to Laos around July 10th, prompting Walz on July 15th to question if the move improves safety or stability for the children left behind. Critics blasted the pardon and Walz's remarks as downplaying a serious crime, while defenders highlighted rehabilitation and noted state pardons don't override federal immigration law. Yeah, it doesn't. So I guess if they commit these heinous crimes, you just put them in rehabilitation for a little while and all is going to be fine. I think they're just trying to normalize this. That's what they're trying to do. Committing heinous acts against our children, small children. And if they're on good behavior for a period of time, then, we'll just give them a full pardon and, nothing was ever done wrong. Anyway, so this is the remarks from Governor Tim Walz when he responded to the deportation of a convicted child sex abuser that he pardoned. Also, AG Keith Ellison, also the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Minnesota. Did that make us any safer? Did it improve the idea that we can't all be judged by our worst day? Walz is one seriously sick, depraved individual.
I guess the question I would ask is did that make us any safer? Did that make the children that are left behind any more stable? Did it improve?
Doesn't matter. You can't molest them.
The idea that...
How you like that?
We can't all be judged by our worst day. And I want to be very clear. These are horrific crimes.
Oh, bullshit, dude. Then why'd you give them a full fucking pardon then if you think they were horrific crimes? I don't care if it's 20. I don't care if it's 50 years ago. He committed them. And he shouldn't be in the presence of children unsupervised. Not at all. Not after he spent years and years in prison for R-wording a 10-year-old child. And you mean to tell me that, we can't deport him because he's got 6 children that he's going to be in the company of without any other supervision, apparently. Okay. Commentary, Donald J. Trump, Truth Social Post, Amy Klobuchar. Okay, so here, let me just read it here. This is just an exact wording of the post here, so I don't even know why it's in video format.
Amy Klobuchar.
Oh, okay, whatever. I'm going to read it. Amy Klobuchar, the lightly respected senator from Minnesota, is running for governor to take the place of the current corrupt and incompetent Tim Walz. I've gotten to know Klobuchar over the years and find her to be equally as incompetent as Walz and probably equally as corrupt in that as a high government official from Minnesota, she knew everything that was going on. If the elections in Minnesota weren't rigged, any Republican could win, but they were, and that is why nobody has won there since Richard Nixon many years ago. I thought I won it all 3 times, only to be disappointed in the end. Vote for Mike Lindell for governor, who has my complete and total endorsement. And forget about these corrupt Democrats like Amy Klobuchar. Make Minnesota great again, President Donald J. Trump. And rocking and rolling to the next from Mike Lindell himself. Thank you, Mr. President. I truly appreciate your confidence in me as I run to become the next governor of Minnesota. Support my campaign today, MikeLindellGov.com. Make America great again. I'll just link that because I link everything I come across. Mike Lindell, the Pillow Man and one of America's greatest and most hardworking patriots, is running for governor of Minnesota, replacing one of the worst and most incompetent governors in the history of the USA. Early primary voting has begun, and if given the chance, Mike will be spectacular. He truly loves Minnesota, as do I, and wants to bring it back from oblivion and embarrassment. He can do it. Nobody has sacrificed more than Mike Lindell in fighting for our country, especially when it comes to election integrity. He truly deserves everything he gets. He will make Minnesota great again. Mike Lindell has my complete and total endorsement. He will not let you down. Good luck, Mike. President Donald J. Trump. And let's move on to the next. Lee Kwan Yembi says Zoran Mamdani watches the World Cup with a guy that strangled his girlfriend to death. Powerful. Yeah, so he went to, I believe it was Rikers Island or one of the jails. I think it was Rikers Island. He went there to watch the World Cup, and he got to hang out with all the inmates because, evidently they're all in there for the wrong reasons. They don't deserve to be locked up. So me as the mayor, I'm going to come in here and hang out with you. And political stunt, basically.
We talked about
66, you have 1 star only. You concluded that. On the other side, you have 3.
Why don't you spend the night there while you're at it? Maybe you'll enjoy it. You just move in.
I hope that this shares with people who are incarcerated here on Rikers that they too are a part of New York City.
Isn't it funny how the cameras are running
World Cup
there?
has been a magical moment for the entire city. These are New Yorkers, and they will be New Yorkers when they get out of Rikers. They're New Yorkers today, and I wanted to make sure that we can celebrate this moment together.
Yeah, because the criminals are just as good, if not better, than everybody else who lives in New York. You know, we got to put the criminals above everybody. They're humans too. It's not like that they did anything wrong to get locked up. It's not like that they completely violated their community's trust, broke all the laws. Not all the laws, but they broke enough laws to get incarcerated. Anyway, but I guess to be fair, presumed innocent until proven guilty. Perhaps all of them that are there haven't been full-on convicted, so I get that. However, if they are locked up pending trial, there's probably an overwhelming amount of evidence that would suggest that they should be incarcerated until their trial date. But again, what do I know? The White House Task Force to eliminate fraud. New York has exhibited fraud and improper payment rates on a scale we've never seen before. 15% unemployment insurance fraud rate, 23% improper payment rate, and nearly $2 million per day in UI fraud. What is that? Unemployment insurance? Unemployment insurance. Okay. And fraud and overpayments. The U.S. Department of Labor and the Department of Labor's Office of the Inspector General are doing something about it, and fraudsters have nowhere to hide. And from the Inspector General, Anthony D'Esposito, combined with the President and Vice President's White House Fraud Task Force, this collaboration between the DOL OIG and Sonderling has forged the most aggressive and advanced strike teams we have ever assembled on FoxNews.com. Probably won't read through all of this either because, I could if I wanted to because they don't pay well. And the Department of Labor, in collaboration with the White House Task Force to eliminate fraud, has deployed a strike force to New York to recover hundreds of millions of dollars in unemployment fraud payments. It keeps getting broader and broader. The amount of money just gets more shocking every single day. New York has exhibited fraud and improper payment rates on a scale we've never seen before, draining nearly $2 million a day from hardworking American taxpayers. Department of Labor Inspector General Anthony D'Esposito told Fox that while the state is cooperating with our review, these numbers are simply unacceptable. Our strike team will ensure the system is operating exactly as intended with no underlying issues. Look, man, if they all did their damn jobs, then the federal government wouldn't even have to step in. They have to have an office where they engage with and deal with fraud when they come across it, or at least they keep an eye on it. They do audits and everything. At least they're supposed to. Obviously, they're not. New York contributed to $750 million in improper unemployment insurance claims and has accounted for $507 million of those claims paid out in 2025, according to numbers reported to the federal government by the state. So, in other words, it sounds to me like this is it's federal tax money. So why does New York give a shit? It's not money that's coming from their coffers. It's coming from the federal government. So, if it leaves our system, then it leaves our system. Whatever. Now the Trump administration wants to claw back those funds it says were obtained through fraudulent means in the Democrat-led state. New York has the highest unemployment insurance rate in the country at 15%. I didn't know that. I figured it probably would have been, California maybe. According to the Department of Labor, the federal government says the state also has the highest improper payment rate at 23%. Well, no wonder there's so many that are unemployed. They're getting shitloads of unemployment benefits. Of the $507 million in overpayments, New York has only managed to recover just a quarter, about 25% of that total, which is well below the national actual loss prevention average of 69%. Dude, they're not even close to the national average. A spokesperson for New York, Governor Kathy Hochul's office, told Fox that she is implementing policies to prevent fraud. Well, where was it? I'm pretty sure that there's been policies to prevent fraud that's been there all along. They just quit giving a shit, which has been a long-standing priority of President Donald Trump's second term. Governor Hochul and the State Department of Labor take fraud and abuse very seriously. That's why the governor has led the way in implementing several changes since the pandemic to fight waste, fraud, and abuse. Democrat leader spokesperson said, I have a feeling over the next year, ain't shit going to be done. Not anything's going to be done to at least set up new roadblocks and ways to prevent all of this from happening. Quote, we will continue to work with our law enforcement partners to pursue criminals and hold perpetrators accountable while ensuring workers receive the benefits to which they are entitled under law efficiently. Probably written by ChatGPT. The DOL described its collaboration with recently announced White House task force to eliminate fraud as unprecedented. Trump instituted the task force by executive order in March, tapped Vice President J.D. Vance, so on and so forth. Okay, so I think we got the idea at that point. And let's roll on to the next. I don't think there's really a whole lot more to go through. I didn't actually compile a whole lot for today, just because I wasn't sure how long Trump's speech was going to go for. From the U.S. Department of Labor, Keith Sunderling, quote, all fraud is a theft on taxpayer dollars. He was in front of Congress today. There's countless examples of fraud that hurts American workers, and under the vice president's leadership on the White House Fraud Task Force, the U.S. Department of Labor is putting a stop to it. Oh, crap. Didn't mean to click on that. Sometimes that pops up and I accidentally click on that.
Department of Labor plays a significant role in making sure that there's no fraud, because all fraud is a theft on taxpayer dollars. And what we saw in the unemployment system during COVID time, $135 billion was stolen, gone. Stolen by crime, stolen by foreign actors.
That's what we know of.
Social Security numbers were being stolen. Millions of dollars were going out to people in jail, to dead people. Somebody who was born in the year 2154 successly applied for unemployment insurance and was able to get it. So countless stories of like that hurts the American workers who actually need that money. So under the vice president's leadership on the task force, we have the license now to finally stop this. And go after states that are not complying. So I sent a letter to 53 governors and governors of territories, basically saying that we are tired of the fraud, and we want you to put these measures in for the fraud to stop.
Y'all have fraud offices.
Then there's going to be consequences, and there's never been consequences before. And President Trump is allowing us to do that. So more importantly, we're telling the states, verify first and pay later. Stop paying first and verifying later.
Yeah, and it continues to blow my mind that the Small Business Administration, Kelly Loeffler, had sent over 500,000 names of potentially fraudsters that stole money from the Payment Protection Program and that other COVID program, probably the unemployment one, that was sent to the Department of Treasury for them to investigate each and every one. Over 500,000 people had potentially had defrauded those programs. That is an unfathomable number. I can't get over how big that number is. And that's just one instance. That just has to do with just the COVID era payment protection program with the small businesses and all that stuff, like where they would go to whatever that website was and tell them that, oh yeah, I've got a small business and it's called this and called that. And then like within 5 minutes, they end up with whatever amount of money that they were asking for directly deposited. Anyway, FBI Director Kash Patel, to the criminals out there, if you're even thinking about committing a crime, we will identify you, we will find you, and we will put you in jail.
The Department of Defense and the United States Coast Guard, from HSI, from FBI, from DEA, and so many others.
Operation Restore Justice. Because they're criminals.
Huge thank you to our partners at HSI and the Homeland Security Task Force, and for me, a special thanks to the men and women of the FBI.
Operation Viper last year. Homeland Security Task Forces.
The FBI says it's been working with local police to go after some of the worst criminals in some of your communities.
To the criminals out there, look at what happened here today. We are unstoppable. If you're even thinking about committing a crime, we will identify you, we will find you, and we will put you in jail.
Let's go. Scam Center Strike Force. Operation Iron Pursuit this year.
We're going to crush violent crime and defend the homeland. There is no one entity on earth that can do it alone. It requires partnerships. It requires back in the blue. And if you ask these folks up here, they know.
Good old-fashioned law enforcement. Some of the footage that they compiled from their task forces and their busts and getting rid of all the bad guys, at least trying to, doing the best they can. I mean, they've done a hell of a good job. If the statistics are correct, which I'm sure that they are, it is the FBI. From Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, today is the 160th anniversary of the Freedmen's Bureau Act of 1866, which reminds us of our duty to protect Americans' right to bear arms. Civil Rights has filed cases against unconstitutional restrictions of the Second Amendment, a constitutional guarantee for every American. The two states that come to mind that I know that the Department of Justice is suing over this is California and Virginia. So we'll see what happens with those.
Today, July 16th, marks the 160th anniversary of the Freedmen's Bureau Act of 1866. Some of you may know that during the Civil War, the Republicans in Congress established the Freedmen's Bureau to support the basic needs of formerly enslaved Americans. The 1866 Act extended those protections to make sure that people who were once enslaved could protect their newfound freedom through their Second Amendment right to arm themselves.
Absolutely.
After the Civil War, many of the over 180,000 African Americans who served in the Union Army returned to the states of the old Confederacy. Some states and localities tried to disarm those veterans and other black people. In response, Congress passed the Freedmen's Bureau Act, which provided that the right to have full and equal benefit of all laws, including the constitutional right to bear arms, shall be secured to all the citizens without respect to race. This anniversary is a reminder that we need to protect Americans' right to bear arms, and that we must constantly be vigilant against those who would rob us of our civil liberties. That is why, under my leadership, the Civil Rights Division has filed cases across the United States fighting unconstitutional restrictions on Americans' Second Amendment rights. Your rights aren't just words on paper. They are constitutional guarantees. At the Civil Rights Division, we will fervently defend those guarantees and the freedoms they protect.
Oh, yeah. Amen. And in the state that I live in the state of Florida recently, I'd have to read it a second time, but I believe I got this right, where 18-year-olds, as long as you're at least 18 years old, you can open or conceal carry a firearm, including a handgun. You just can't buy them yet until I think you're 21. I'm not sure if that pertains to both long guns and handguns, but right now in the legislature, they're looking at passing the law that would allow 18-year-olds to purchase firearms, including handguns, because 18 means you're an adult, and nothing in the Constitution that says you have to be 21 to do anything with regard to the Second Amendment. If you're 18, you're a legal adult. So Florida is getting more based by the day, man. It's getting very nice to see that we're getting more and more of our Second Amendment rights returned to us. From U.S. Central Command at 2 p.m. Eastern Time today, U.S. forces began conducting a new wave of strikes against Iran for the sixth consecutive night to further degrade Iranian military capabilities. I didn't have time to go through like I did the other night, going through footage and see if there was anything new out there, but I'll most likely be doing that tomorrow. So if there were any footage, which I'm sure there's going to be, of the sixth wave of strikes against Iran today, I'll be showing that on tomorrow's episode of The Swamp, the Friday show. And the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, at President Trump's direction, the U.S. Treasury is bringing the full weight of our authorities to defend the integrity of the United States and global financial systems. We will identify illicit funding. However artfully it is concealed. We will dismantle the networks that sustain political terrorism, however respectable their fronts might be, or may be. We will pursue those who enable political violence, however distant their jurisdictions.
On behalf of the United States Treasury, let there be no uncertainty about the work before us and the resolve with which we will undertake it. We will identify illicit funding, however artfully it is concealed. We will dismantle the networks that sustain political terrorism, however respectable their fronts may be. We will pursue those who enable political violence, however distant their jurisdictions, and we will deepen our collaboration with every nation represented in this room for as long as this work requires. On behalf of the United States.
Well, now that I saw that, I should have included that up there with Marco Rubio, but that's all right. Better late than never. So even the Treasury is going to be going after left-wing terrorists that may be operating anywhere in the world. From Kaylin Dorr, to be honest, it's encouraged. It's okay to love America, with the Blue Angels flying very low over the Gulf of America, probably on the Florida Panhandle. That would be my best guess. Freedom from the White House, and we've got some footage of this, and apparently it seemed to have, I guess, angered the mainstream media, or it angered Democrats, or I don't know, it pissed off somebody to the point where it had to be addressed. So Eric Trump says, I can't stand the manufactured outrage by the low testosterone mainstream media. This was undoubtedly the highlight of these people's day. Dude, that would have made my year if I happened to be on the beach. And I live really close to the beach. I live near Indian Rocks Beach in Pinellas County, St. Pete, Clearwater area. And to this day, I mean, I've been here over 20 years, like my entire adult life, but I haven't seen any fighters. Well, actually, I've seen fighter jets, but not flying low like they were flying here, like not even close to low. Like very occasionally, I'll hear them fly outside because we do have MacDill Air Force Base not too far from here. But up there in the Fort Walton Beach area, they see the Blue Angel, maybe not exclusively the Blue Angels, but they see fighter jets flying up and down the coast all the time. That'd be so badass to just be out there chilling on the beach and all of a sudden these fighter jets just rocket right past. But they got low this time around, and they got low enough to kick up some wind in their wake, and they blew like a couple of tents, and you could see like ladies' hair blowing and stuff like that. So I got a couple of clips of that happened. You see the wind kicking up. Damn. Yep, still out there. And what's awesome about watching this, because I've seen them at the air show before, so they'll fly like front and center. You'll see like 2 or 3 of them flying. It looks like they're starting to take formation, and you didn't even notice that 1 or 2 of them are not in the area, and then they just come out of effing nowhere, like from right out behind you, low to the ground, like scares the shit out of you. But at the same time, it's like one of the most like amazing moments ever. Damn! Yeah, just like that. Wow, really low. Yeah, that's dangerous. Oh my ass. Whatever. They know what they're doing. Okay, so I won't play it again. There's a couple others. It might possibly be repeats because that turned out to be a compilation. Wasn't sure if that was a compilation or not, but it was. So I got 11-second one here. Yeah, I see this tent gets knocked down. The wind. A lot of fun. Lots and lots of fun. Oh yeah, of course, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the flyovers will continue until morale improves. So there you go. That was Pete Hegseth's answer to the rage bait media getting all pissed off that the Blue Angels were making everybody's day down at the beach here in the sunny state of Florida, the free state of Florida. Acting Secretary of the Navy Hung Kao says flight debrief complete, no reprimands, no firings, no problem. That's the sound of freedom. Semper Fi and hoo-yah. So obviously nobody got in trouble for this low flyover. Look how low that is, man. That's amazing. Yeah, I freaking love it, man. We need more of that, especially like people just vacationing at the beach. Oh, man. All right, so we'll end up finishing up with the NASA solar system announcement. Join us live on July the 16th at 2 p.m., which was today, right? I think today was July 16th. Yeah, of course it is. And obviously, I'm not going to show the whole thing. They gave just a preview. So if you follow what NASA's doing in the solar system, they're building a drone. I don't know if they technically called it a drone. They might call it like an aerial probe or something like that. But they're sending it out to Saturn's moon Titan, where it's going to land, and it's going to conduct a series of flights. It's going to take off from one location and land at another one like a few miles from where it landed, and it's essentially just going to leapfrog from location to location. Rather than over on Mars, we've got the rovers that travel very, very slowly and very steadily, but this little device called the Dragonfly will be able to cover miles and miles of area, and every time it lands, it can conduct its scientific studies and take samples and maybe like look at stuff through, whatever type of instruments that it has, spectroscopy and all that fun stuff. So anyway, let's see. So Eastern time to meet the teams building NASA's Dragonfly and learn how it will explore Titan's rich prebiotic chemistry, the molecules and processes that lead to life, and see how the mission is coming together. I can't wait till this happens. I think it's going to land in Titan sometime in the early, maybe the mid-2030s. So it's not too far away, but they still have some way to go. all coming together. Then from the Dragonfly, I want to say it's going to take off in 2028, but don't exactly quote me on that. I think that's the date. Of course, they have to work in clean room conditions because they don't want any contaminants to hitchhike and end up on Titan and possibly contaminating the planet, which I'm sure is very highly unlikely because it's like, what, almost like 300 degrees below zero there with liquid methane raining down from the sky. Probably not going to happen, but still, that's why they work in those clean room environments, to try to keep the contaminants from happening. But anyway, that's going to do it for tonight's episode. If you enjoyed the video, please give a quick like and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow night as we explore the swamp Monday through Friday. I also post daily on X, which is where you can peek at some of tomorrow's content. And don't forget, the video clips from tonight will begin dropping right here on the channel tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thank you very much for watching. God bless the troops, and God bless America.